Dealers will never say this out loud, but right now, there are trikes they flat out cannot move. They've been sitting under fluorescent lights for months, gathering dust while interest piles up, and managers get more desperate by the week. And that desperation turns into something you can use. Quiet markdowns, backroom deals, and just-take-it prices on rigs that were supposed to be premium. Tonight, we're breaking down 7 trike motorcycles dealers can't sell, and what that really means for you. We'll talk about why loyal riders won't touch them, how they're choking showroom floors, and exactly where the massive discount line is between a smart buy and a very expensive mistake. So stick with this one right to the end, because the last few rigs on this list can either save you thousands or bury you in someone else's mistake. Number 7, Can-Am Spyder F3T. You know that feeling when a machine looks fast standing still, yet your gut says it does not belong in your garage. That is the kind of reaction many seasoned riders have the first time they walk past the Spyder on a showroom floor. It sits there low and wide, all sharp angles and plastic edges, and it does not speak the same language as an old touring rig with steel, chrome, and a heartbeat you feel through the floorboards. You can respect the engineering, but that does not mean you want to live with it. For a lot of riders who grew up carving miles on big twins, the problem starts with identity. A traditional touring bike has a silhouette you can spot half a mile away, bags and trunk stacked high, fairing cutting the wind, motor sitting proud between the frame rails. The Spyder comes across more like a snowmobile crossed with a roadster. It looks low enough to scrape the driveway, and the nose-heavy stance feels like a car trying to pretend it is a bike. Many riders look at it and cannot picture themselves rolling into a veteran benefit ride or a summer rally on something that futuristic. Out on the road, the feeling stays strange. With 2 wheels up front, the Spyder does not lean into a corner the way your body expects after decades on 2 wheels. You steer it more than you guide it, and that leaves some riders tense instead of relaxed. The stability is real, yet the sensation can feel disconnected, like the machine is doing the work while you sit on top instead of inside the experience. For somebody who remembers what it is like to wrestle a big dresser in Mountain Sweepers, that can feel less like progress and more like losing part of the craft. On the spec sheet, you are looking at roughly 115 horsepower feeding out of an inline 3 engine, with about 1,335 cubic centimeters, pushing close to 96 pound-feet of torque through a setup that relies on dual front disc brakes, with a single rear disc tied into an anti-lock braking system, riding on a front wishbone-style suspension with a rear monoshock, carrying a wet weight in the neighborhood of 1,100 pounds, holding the rider at a seat height just under 27 inches, and carrying a starting price that hovers around $24,000, depending on trim and equipment. Plenty of riders shake their heads at the Spyder, yet the next trike on the list manages to disappoint for almost the exact opposite reason. Number 6. Royal Enfield Bullet trike conversion. Every rider has a story about a machine that should have stayed simple. That is where the trouble starts, with a Bullet that has been turned into a 3-wheeler. What began life as a light, honest bike for back roads and small towns ends up dragging extra weight it was never built to carry. You can see the appeal on paper, but once you walk around one in a showroom, the compromise becomes hard to ignore. On 2 wheels, the Bullet has a certain charm. It thumps along, feels mechanical, and reminds many riders of the bikes they grew up around. Once a trike kit gets bolted on, that character starts to disappear, putting down roughly 18 pound-feet of torque into basic disc brakes and a straightforward suspension built around conventional forks and twin rear shocks, ending up with a wet weight that can climb well north of 500 pounds once the 3rd wheel and hardware are installed, offering a seat height a bit over 30 inches, and usually landing in the $9,000 to $11,000 window when you total up the donor bike, kit, paint, and labor. Where the Bullet trike feels out of its depth, the machine waiting at number 5 shows how going to the other extreme can cause a whole different kind of problem. If you ride, wrenched, or toured for decades, support real rider talk. Hit like, subscribe for more no BS breakdowns, and tell us your take in the comments below as riders. Number 5. Rewaco RF1 GT. Some machines look like they rolled straight out of a car show instead of a motorcycle rally. That is the first thing that hits you when you walk past the Rewaco sitting under bright showroom lights. Long, low, all-chrome pipes and wild bodywork, it pulls your eye the way a custom hot rod does. For a minute, you understand why a dealer decided to take a chance on it. Then reality sets in. Most riders who have spent decades on big twins and solid touring rigs are not looking for a rolling science project. The Rewaco feels more like a concept car than a road partner. You sit down in that bucket-style seat, grab those wide bars, look at the car-style controls and floor pedals, and it hits you that this thing does not speak the same language as a Road King or an Ultra, you know inside and out. On the move, that difference grows. The Rewaco does not lean. It pushes through corners like a very low sports car. Riders who have spent their whole life letting a bike settle into a curve find themselves fighting instincts, muscling the bars instead of flowing with the road. The front end feels planted, yet the rear can chatter over rough pavement. And the whole machine rides stiff enough to jar old backs that have already seen their share of hard miles. Out on the highway, power is not the problem. The turbocharged motor has plenty of shove, and it will run past legal speeds with ease. The issue is what it costs in attention. You are always managing that width, that low ride height, that firm suspension. Expansion joints, pothole, and uneven surfaces become constant reminders that this trike was built for smooth European lanes, not patched Midwestern interstates or frost-heaved mountain passes. That wears you down on all-day runs. On paper, the exotic layout looks impressive, boasting around 170 horsepower from an inline-4 engine of roughly 1,331 cubic centimeters, sending close to 110 pound-feet of torque toward the rear while depending on dual front disc brakes and a single rear disc, working through an anti-lock braking system, riding on an independent front suspension paired with a complex rear multi-link arrangement, carrying a wet weight a touch above 1,150 pounds, keeping the rider sunk low at about 16 inches off the deck, and typically starting near $35,000 before you even begin to talk about custom paint or additional accessories. High power and wild styling clearly are not enough, as the trike waiting at number 4 shows how even a legendary touring platform can stumble once it gains a third wheel. Number 4, Honda Goldwing Roadsmith trike conversion. Some names carry so much respect that riders almost assume they cannot be ruined. The Goldwing is one of those names. For decades, it has been the benchmark for long-distance comfort, a flat 6 that just keeps humming while the miles peel off. So when you see one sitting on 3 wheels in a dealer showroom, there is a natural hope that it keeps everything you loved and simply adds stability. That expectation is exactly why this conversion frustrates so many seasoned riders. On 2 wheels, the Goldwing feels like it glides. The balance is natural. The low center of gravity makes slow speed work easy. And the chassis seems to carry its weight in a way that disappears once you roll through the gears. When the Roadsmith kit gets bolted on, some of that magic is lost. The wide rear end and extended bodywork change the whole stance. The back looks bulky, the proportions shift, and what used to be a sleek touring bike starts to resemble a small car from certain angles. It might still carry a proud badge, yet the shape does not have the same grace. Once you ease it out of the parking lot, the difference becomes even clearer. Factory-built trikes from the ground up are engineered, so the frame, suspension, and steering all work together for 3-wheel duty. A converted Goldwing is constantly reminding you that it began life as a different animal. Steering feels heavier at low speeds, the rear can hop over sharp bumps, and quick corrections require more effort than many older shoulders enjoy. For riders who once flicked a wing through tight switchbacks with ease, that can feel like a genuine step backward. Slow speed handling is often where confidence either grows or dies. U-turns, fuel stops, steep driveways, and hotel parking lots are the daily tests on any big touring rig. The converted Goldwing can feel nervous in these spots. With the added width and weight sitting behind you, every camber change and every patch of gravel is more noticeable through the bars. Instead of relaxing into the end of a long day, some riders find themselves gritting their teeth as they muscle the trike through one last tight corner before shutting it down. Cost is another reason these machines linger on the floor. A clean used Goldwing already carries a solid price tag. Add the Roadsmith kit, paintwork to match the body, upgraded suspension parts, and labor from a shop that knows what it is doing, and the final bill climbs into territory where riders expect perfection. When they realize they are paying more than some factory trikes while inheriting the quirks of a conversion, many quietly step away, dig into the numbers, and the converted tourer still carries serious muscle, with something in the range of 125 horsepower, coming from a flat-six engine around 1,832 cubic centimeters, backed up by roughly 129 pound-feet of torque feeding into dual front disc brakes, and a single rear disc tied together by an anti-lock braking system, rolling on independent rear suspension mated to conventional or upgraded front forks, ending up with a wet weight that hovers near 1,250 pounds once the kit is installed, offering a seat height around 29 inches, and most commonly priced between $45,000 and $50,000 when you add a solid donor bike, the Roadsmith package, paint, and professional installation. Where the Goldwing struggles under the weight of a conversion, the trike sitting at number 3 proves that chasing brute force and sheer presence can create an entirely different kind of problem for riders and dealers alike. Number 3. 𝐷𝐴𝐴𝐻 𝑽𝒊𝒅𝒆𝒐𝒔. There is overkill. And then there is the moment a motorcycle crosses the line into pure spectacle. The 𝐷𝐴𝐴𝐻 lives on that far side of the line. When you see it in person for the first time, it almost does not look real. Long frame, massive rear rubber, 8 exhaust pipes hinting at a small block car motor. It feels like somebody shoved a drag strip fantasy into the motorcycle section. For a few minutes, the idea is intoxicating. Years of riding big twins, hearing stories about power and torque, all lead to this cartoon of a machine promising more of everything. More cylinders, more displacement, more noise, more attitude. Experienced riders gather around it, shake their heads, and smile. There is respect for the courage it takes to build such a monster. Yet respect is not the same thing as wanting to sign paperwork and actually live with it. Once you imagine daily use, cracks begin to show. Picture rolling a 𝐷𝐴𝐻 into a tight garage, backing it out around a car, or threading through a crowded gas station at the end of a long day. The sheer size turns simple errands into work. Low-speed maneuvering feels closer to handling a compact car than a motorcycle. Many riders with aging knees and shoulders decide they have no interest in wrestling something that heavy and that long just to grab groceries or meet friends across town. Out on open roads, the story is not much calmer. Twist your wrist, and the engine delivers a wave of thrust that can erase straight pavement in a hurry. That kind of power can be thrilling once or twice, yet it also demands a constant level of focus. Many long-distance riders do not want to maintain for hours. There is very little room for error when a slight roll of throttle can light up the rear tire or shoot you past traffic faster than your instincts expect. Comfort is not the main priority here either. The seating position is stretched, wind protection is limited, and the suspension is tasked with controlling a huge amount of mass. Expansion joints, rough patches, and bridge seams all send clear messages through the seat and bars. For a veteran rider used to crossing states on a plush touring rig, the idea of doing 1,000-mile weeks on a 𝐷𝐴𝐻 quickly loses appeal. Then comes the practical reality of ownership. Insurance can be complicated. Some companies look at the displacement and custom nature of the machine and price premiums accordingly. Pure numbers only push the story further into the realm of excess. With well over 400 horsepower on tap from a V8 engine displacing roughly 5,700 cubic centimeters, more than 450 pound-feet of torque twisting the driveline, stopping chores handled by dual front disc brakes and a large single rear disc working through an anti-lock braking system, suspension duties managed by telescopic front forks, and a rear swing arm setup hanging off a stretched steel frame, a wet weight sitting in the neighborhood of 1,300 pounds, a seat height in the mid-26-inch range, and a starting figure that often lands around $65,000 before any custom paint or chrome packages even enter the conversation. Sheer excess defines the 𝐷𝐴𝐻, while the machine, sitting at number 2, shows how even a slightly smaller, highly engineered trike can still miss the mark for riders who value tradition and practicality. If you want straight talk on the bikes, factories oversell and dealers hide. Subscribe before you forget. The next deep dive might save your garage from an expensive mistake tomorrow. Number 2. Boom Trikes Fighter. Every rider has walked past a machine that looks built for a movie set, rather than a real road. The Fighter is exactly that kind of trike. Wide rear, swooping fiberglass, car-style seating, and a stance closer to a go-kart than a cruiser. It stops people in their tracks for all the wrong reasons. In a dealership full of big twins and touring rigs, it feels like a visitor from another planet. At first glance, the engineering seems impressive. The frame is low and long, the body panels wrap tight around the mechanicals, and the controls sit more like a small sports car cockpit than a motorcycle layout. For someone used to swinging a leg over a saddle and grabbing a set of traditional bars, the whole setup feels foreign. You slide down into it rather than climb onto it. And that small difference says a lot about what the machine really is. It is not trying to be a motorcycle in the classic sense. That identity clash shows up in the riding position. Instead of a tank between your knees and floorboards or pegs under your feet, you get pedals and a central control area. The bars are flat and wide, almost like something off a dragster. For many riders, years of muscle memory tell their hands and feet what to do on a normal bike without thinking. On the fighter, that instinct becomes confusion. Reaching for a pedal where a brake lever should be is not a feeling anyone enjoys. Once rolling, the handling confirms the first impression. There is no lean, no natural roll into a corner. You steer it like an oversized go-kart, muscling the front end through every curve. On a smooth road at moderate speed, it can feel planted, even entertaining in short bursts. Stretch that ride into an all-day tour over patched-up back roads and freeway joints, though, and the stiff chassis and low-profile tires start sending every bump directly into your spine. Comfort takes a backseat to style, which does not sit well with riders who have already done their time on rigid machines decades ago. Practical concerns pile up quickly. Luggage space is limited, weather protection is poor, and passenger comfort is very much an afterthought. You might manage a short, sunny ride to the local meet, yet the idea of running a multi-state trip with a passenger, gear, and changing conditions seems unrealistic. For riders who see a trike as a long-term touring partner, rather than a conversation starter, that lack of practicality is a deal-breaker. From a specification standpoint, the oddball three-wheeler looks strong at first glance, claiming around 120 horsepower from an inline-4 engine, with close to 1,131 cubic centimeters, twisting out roughly 94 pound-feet of torque into a system that relies on dual front disc brakes and a single rear disc supported by an anti-lock braking system, carrying a sport-leaning suspension with a low-slung front arrangement and independent rear hardware, posting a wet weight just over 1,100 pounds, setting the seat height somewhere below 20 inches, and usually wearing a starting sticker north of $30,000 before owners add racks, lighting, or cosmetic touches. If the fighter feels out of place in American dealerships, the Trike sitting at number 1 shows that even a familiar badge and a trusted engine cannot always convince riders to pay top dollar for 3 wheels. Number 1. Harley-Davidson CVO Tri Glide. Some bikes roll onto the floor with so much shine and promise that you expect them to sell themselves. The CVO Trike was meant to be that kind of machine. Top-shelf paint, top-shelf motor, every chrome accent already bolted on from the factory. On paper, it sounds like the ultimate way to stay in the Harley family while moving to 3 wheels with pride intact. Yet across the country, these rigs are spending more time under fluorescent lights than out on the highway. For riders who have already owned several big twins, pride runs deeper than fresh paint and a fancy badge. They want to feel that every extra dollar they spend buys them real comfort, better power, or honest long-haul endurance. When they study the CVO Trike, many realize they are paying a steep premium for upgrades that do not truly change the basic ride. The frame is familiar. The layout is familiar. The touring equipment is close to what you find on less expensive models. What changes most is the price tag and the paint code. That gap between cost and experience shows up the second a rider throws a leg over the seat. The cockpit feels good, sure, yet not dramatically more comfortable than a standard touring trike set up with a custom seat and a few aftermarket touches. Audio is strong, yet plenty of riders already have a system they like. The motor sounds healthy, yet the difference between the CVO tune and a well-sorted 114 or 121 build is not night and day out on real roads. Weight is another quiet factor, because the CVO Trike carries serious mass. Loaded with fuel, passenger, touring gear, and maybe a trailer, you are wrestling a lot of pounds through every gas station and side street. Many owners have already fought big touring rigs for decades and want 3 wheels to feel like relief. Then comes the question of what that badge buys. You pay top dollar on day one, yet a few years later, you stand in a parking lot realizing it sells like a well-maintained standard trike, with your money buried in paint and trim. Underneath all the exclusive styling, the CVO Trike delivers around 125 horsepower from a Milwaukee 8117 engine with roughly 1,923 cubic centimeters, produces close to 126 pound-feet of torque, uses dual front disc brakes with a single rear disc tied into an anti-lock braking system, rides on a touring suspension with dual rear shocks and conventional front forks, carries a wet weight in the neighborhood of 1,270 pounds, holds a seat height a touch over 27 inches, and starts at roughly $54,999 before taxes, fees, or personal accessories. All of that leaves a lot of veteran riders looking past the price tag and asking themselves a simple question about every modern trike on the floor, namely whether it truly earns a place in the garage or just looks good under the lights while the real miles get saved for something more honest. Three wheels were never meant to be a consolation prize. They're just a different test of judgment. If this breakdown helped you see these trikes and their deals a little clearer, hit like so more riders find it. Drop a comment with the trikes you're seeing gathering dust at your local dealer, and subscribe for more straight shot videos that respect your miles, not the marketing.